Welcome to Coach Bennett's podcast, where every run has a purpose, where kindness is hardcore, where this is about running, and this is not about running, where every starting line is a finish line in disguise, where rambling still gets you where you need to be, where pineapple will never ruin your pizza, and the sodas, adult and not adult kind, are always cold, and where there is room on the starting line for everybody. I'm Coach Bennett. Thank you for letting me be a part of your day. Let's get started. Hey there. Welcome to another episode of Coach Bennett's podcast. This is episode 135. Yes, I don't know why I'm talking like I'm talking, but this is going to be a great episode. I'm fired up for this episode. I will just mention this little tidbit, some behind the scenes here. I just finished dinner and I'm walking into the room to do this podcast, and I had like a hiccup, and then I had like another one. So now I'm worried that I actually have the hiccups, and I'm wondering if talking about the hiccups will get rid of the hiccups, or if talking about the hiccups will then cause more hiccups. You know how like if you talk about yawning, it makes you yawn? Look, I literally just yawned, and if you don't believe me, do it. Talk about yawning, think about yawning, and you will in fact yawn. It's awful. Oh, why did I do that to you? I don't know. But this episode is called Easy Wins. That's right, easy wins. Now, why are we talking about easy wins? Well, I love easy wins, first of all, but also it's the beginning of February. Of course, you may be listening to this whenever you want to listen to it. So yes, you may be listening to it at the beginning of February, but it could be March or April or June or October, December. Whenever you decide to listen to this, this episode is going to be beneficial. But I am bringing up the beginning of February because beginning of February is historically a tough month for people, because those resolutions that they resolved to do, those goals that they set at the beginning of the new year, those challenges they committed to, well, a lot of them kind of go by the wayside. About 3 weeks, 4 weeks into the year, they just fall apart, and people stop doing what they were doing. And what happens is, one missed day turns into 2 missed days, and then 3 missed days, and next thing you know, missed day becomes a missed week, and then you just stop doing it, and you're beating yourself up because you're not doing it, and, losing becomes like a losing streak, and then that losing streak becomes a losing habit, and then you decide, well, I'm tired of losing, so I'm just going to quit this stupid thing, and then you start just mocking the goal or the challenge that you had set for yourself, or went after, or even worse, you start mocking yourself. So what I want to do is I want to give you a whole bunch of easy wins so you can end a losing streak and start a winning streak. I want you to get some easy wins so at the end of the day you can point at a couple of things and say, oh yeah, did that, win, did that, win. I want you to start every day and not be overwhelmed by the prospect of what you need to do to earn a win, because you can earn some easy wins here, and we're going to go over a couple of those easy wins. Now, I will say that there are a few things, like foundational things, that I think you should be thinking about. You should maybe spend some time thinking about, actually, so you can decide whether or not you believe this. Because if you believe these things I'm going to bring up, it's going to help you not just earn those easy wins, but put together a lot of wins, and also celebrate those wins, which will lead to more wins. And one of those is focusing on today, not focusing on yesterday and what you didn't do, not focusing on tomorrow and all the things you would like to do tomorrow. It's focusing on today, just today. That's it. So in your head, if you feel like you've, maybe been a part of a losing streak, well, you're 0-0 in the standings right now. There are no wins, but there are no losses either. So if maybe you set a resolution, 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, and that resolution has kind of, like I said, stopped maybe the process, the progress, whatever you want to call it. Well, rather than thinking about the days in the past where you didn't do it, let's just focus on today where there is an opportunity to still do it or do something else. See, that mentality is an important one to have. And you see it in sports all the time. You will hear baseball players who get up to bat 500, 600 times a season, and they strike out, and they hit into double plays, and they fly out, and they don't make it on base way more than they do make it on base. I mean, you're in the All-Star game. If you're batting 300, which means 7 times out of 10, you're not getting a hit. So they've been asked sometimes, like, when you strike out, like, how do you deal with that? Or if you go 0 for 4 in a game, and they say, you got to forget about it. You can't bring that previous strikeout into the next at-bat. Same thing you hear with great basketball players. Like, hey, you went 1 for 12 from the 3-point line, this evening. Like, how are you going to recover from that? Well, because I'm going into the next game believing I'm going to play well, believing I'm going to make the next shot. You're not going into the next game missing and saying, well, I went 1 for 12 in the last game, and now I start this game, which means I'm 1 for 13 now. You don't do that. You don't do that. But I will tell you this, runners do that a lot. We drag a lot of negativity with us, like across brand new starting lines. And it's like, dude, leave it at the previous finish line. Just leave it there. I'll tell you what, if you give yourself some space from a bad run or a bad race, it allows you the distance for you to look back on it and learn from it. So I'm not saying ignore it or forget about it. I'm just saying don't bring it with you into the next run. Bring learnings, some of that earned wisdom, and maybe that leads to a better run because you're a better runner, because you're a smarter runner. So that's kind of where I want to just start with. Like, when we're talking about this stuff, these easy wins, the tendency is to be like, yeah, but it doesn't change the fact that I haven't run in 2 weeks. I'm not saying achieving one of these easy wins or going for a run today is going to change the fact that you haven't run in 2 weeks. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is if we earn some of these wins and start a winning streak, you're more likely to do more good things. That's what I'm saying. All right? So let's get into this, all right? I'm going to start with a story from, I believe it was 2018, and some of you may know this, but I was running very inconsistently back in 2018 to the point where I was like, I gotta do something kind of wacky to get running again. I was not finding any consistency in my running. I was missing way more days than I was running, and I just thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to run every day in June. That's what I'm going to do. This was the very end of May. I think it was like May 29th or something like that, because I remember I had to travel to Albuquerque the next day, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna run every day in June. Now, what I would normally do is set myself up for failure when I would say something like that. Well, running every day in June is tough, just because of schedules. I'm not even talking about the running thing, so I'm going to get to the running thing in a minute. But, life does its own thing. And I'm, working. I've got kids. I'm married. I mean, there's a lot going on. So, trying to run every day in June seems like, woof, buddy, like, why don't you just try like every day this week? And the reason why I wanted to run every day was because I knew that if I could run every day, I'd have some momentum, and it was a challenge, and it was exciting, and it was something that was interesting to me. And it had probably been maybe 10 years since I had run every day in a single month. So there was a lot of reasons why. But now this is where I set myself up for success. In the past, I would have probably said, you know what, at a minimum of 20 minutes, a minimum of 5K. And I decided a minimum of 5 minutes. Now, the weather at the end of May in Oregon is just about perfect. okay, just about perfect. So I knew I was going to have weather on my side. I knew that I was going to have a ton of sunlight. So I was going to be able to, if needed be, run after dinner, which I cook dinner and do the lunch and the breakfast here. I do the cooking. So I realized, like, if, my back's against the wall, I'm still going to have a lot of sunlight after dinner. And because the weather's nice and, I know my neighborhood, I can run around the neighborhood if I want to, but I'm not going to have a minimum of 20 minutes. I'm not going to have a minimum of 5K. I'm going to have a minimum of 5 minutes. That's it. 5 minutes. That's it. Because I knew no matter what, I'd be able to go out 2.5 minutes and come back. I was setting myself up for success. I was giving myself an easy win. Now, I knew finding the time every single day in June to run 5K was going to be much more difficult with travel and all the other responsibilities. I knew that I could find 5 minutes. I knew I'd be able to do that. I was setting myself up for success. And the real goal wasn't this massive fitness goal. The goal was consistency, and the goal was celebration. I wanted to just be able to look at something and say, I did that. And I also made a goal of I would not run if it set me back in any way. So if I was hurt or if I was sick, then I wasn't going to go for a run. So that's, something I should add in there. But that's what I did. It really changed my mentality about so many things. And I also agreed I was not going to diminish the 5-minute run. I wasn't going to put down the fact that I didn't run 10 or 15 or 20 minutes. I was going to be proud of and celebrate every single time I went for a 5-minute run. And anyway, I did. I ran every day in June that year, and then I ran every day for the next 7.5 years. So it worked, and that's why I'm saying set yourself up for success. Celebrate that success, and do not diminish. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of easy wins now that you've kind of got the background to the episode, a little background to why I think little things can become very big things and very powerful things and very positive things, especially if you're adding little thing to little thing to little thing. Okay, so, all right, you've heard me say this probably 100 times in 135 episodes. I think one of the easiest wins that you can achieve every single day is drinking some water right when you wake up. Just right when you wake up, you can have a glass on your bedside table. So right when you wake up, you drink it. Or when you go into the kitchen and you're going to make your coffee, you pound some water while the coffee's being made. You can figure out how you do this. But I'm just saying, start your day with a chug of some water. It will change your life. Now, the other thing is, I'm not telling you need to then go drink 8 glasses of water. Although I will say, your life will be better if you're consistently hydrated, because even, a small level of dehydration has dramatic negative effects on your performance, your ability to focus, recover, sleep, all that good stuff. But anyway, that's for another discussion. What I'm trying to say is just having that glass of water, it will lead to you drinking more water, more than likely, but I'm not worried about that right now. This is an easy win. We're just starting the day with the water. And the reason why starting the day with a water is so consequential is because hopefully you just spent 6, 7, 8 hours not drinking anything because you were sleeping. So you are hydrating when your body really needs it because you haven't had anything to drink for potentially 1/3 of the day. Yeah, I can do math pretty quickly. There's 24 hours in a day, and 8 hours sleep is 1/3 of that day. You just went 1/3 of the day without drinking anything. Imagine any other part of the day that you would do 1/3 without any fluids. You wouldn't. Now, granted, yes, you were sleeping, which is different than being awake, but let's just focus on the fact that 8 hours is a long time without a drink. So simply by starting with a drink, you are kickstarting your day. Easy win. And every time you do it, you celebrate the fact that you started your day with something awesome. I'll give you another thing you can do in the morning after you've chugged your water and you're waiting for your coffee. You can read something, not on your phone. And I'm not anti social media and anti-phone and all that stuff, but I'm also not pro-social media or pro-phone. I think we spend entirely too much time on both of those things. I think you should read magazine or book, something every morning, something actually that you're interested in. A lot of times people think that reading, like running, should be a punishment. Like, because I've never really been a big reader, I should read something very difficult and boring that I'm not going to enjoy. No. Start by reading stuff that you're really excited about, that you're passionate about, stuff that you love to read about, stuff you're interested in. Because guess what? That's how you'll keep reading. And just like running, if you can enjoy it and do it consistently, it leads to more running. So if you can start reading stuff that you're already interested in, what you're going to find is you're interested in way more than you think. And your mind is going to open up. And you're going to suddenly ask people, like, are you reading anything good? And you'll be getting these conversations. You're going to be giving them great reading, recommendations and magazines. And I've read this wonderful article about this. So just start by reading something, preferably something you're interested in. And every time you do read something, whether it's 1 page or 10 pages or 10 minutes of reading or 5 minutes of reading, celebrate the fact that you read. Yeah, again, we're not diminishing our wins here. We're not doing that. That's BS. We're not doing it. All right? Now, another thing you should do is try to learn something. Now, I do believe that every time you read, you are learning something, or at least working a muscle out that helps you learn things. But I think you should also set up the challenge, which, by the way, is an easy challenge to meet, and that is to learn something new every day or work on learning something new every day. I'll give you an example, like learning a language. Okay, it's astonishing to me that basically everyone I know, because I live in the United States, knows like one language, okay? Unless you're not from the United States originally, then you probably know multiple languages, which is totally badass. And I want to learn more languages. Now, I don't know if I'm going about it the best way, but I am trying to learn a bunch of different languages. I've spent time trying to learn Irish, German, Italian, Spanish, French. Now, in no way am I able to really carry a legit conversation in any of those, but the goal is to eventually be able to hold conversations with people in those languages. And that's one of the things that on a daily basis I'm saying I want to learn something. So if I work on a language for 5 minutes, that is a win. I have learned something. I am better as a result. Now, would it be better if I was taking an immersive class overseas? Sure, that's not happening. So why would I set the standard to that? I'll tell you what'll happen if that's the standard. Well, I'm not going to meet it. I'm going to stop doing it, and I'm not going to try again, as opposed to consistently working a little at this. And every once in a while, instead of 5 minutes working on a language, I have those days where it's 35 minutes or 45 minutes, which feels great. The key is to continue to take advantage of those 45-minute one-off days. I got to come back the next day and do a couple of minutes. And those little days are the little bridges that lead to these big days. And the big days really push me forward. Then to make sure that I don't just stop in my tracks, I have those little days and I celebrate them. So I think those are some easy wins right there. Drink some water, read something that you're interested in, and then try to learn something. Now, you may be thinking like, dude, this is a running podcast. Yeah, it is a running podcast, and every single one of these things will help you become a better runner. Absolutely, without a doubt. We'll get to how in a little bit. But my next one is clean up a mess. Yeah, clean up a mess. Now, I am by nature a messy person, so I have no problem finding messes to clean up. And I'm literally talking about like a mess, not like a metaphorical mess like, this is a bad relationship here, or, these people are fighting, or I'm talking about like I have to clean up the stack of papers that are in my room. or I need to actually take out the recycling. I need to collect my coffee cups that are around the house. Like, just a mess. It doesn't have to be a big mess. You don't have to do every single dish in the sink. What I'm saying is just find a place that's a little messy and clean it up. Because when it's cleaned up, you feel amazing. And here's the other thing. If you have family or friends or teammates that you live with, if you're working, if you are in school, like, doing this, finding a mess and cleaning it up, is contagious. I'll give you an example. When I used to teach, one of the things that you had a responsibility for as a teacher was you were on a lunch duty. So you had a series of classes you had to teach throughout the day, and then you usually had a lunch duty to cover, which means you walked around the cafeteria, you made sure everyone was acting the right way, they were cleaning up after themselves. But, over the course of, a couple of periods of lunch, inevitably there's going to be just stuff on the floor. There's going to be crumbs, there's going to be scraps of paper. So what I would do is when I was walking around, because it's just kind of boring just walking around, I would sweep. And there was an intense satisfaction to sweeping the cafeteria, because by the time that the lunch period was done, the floor was spotless and it felt really good. And what would happen, which was interesting, but I guess not that interesting, is I would have students come up to me and say, Mr. Bennett, which is hilarious that people called me Mr. Bennett. Mr. Bennett, why are you sweeping? And I would say, because the floor's messy. And they say, well, why don't you make a student do it? Because that was one of the punishments. So if you got in trouble, you may have to clean up and stuff. And I'd say, well, there are some kids, sweeping or, washing down the cafeteria tables, handling the recycling or the garbage, whatever. I said, but, it doesn't mean I can't help too. And if the floor's messy, why don't I clean it up? And I get this look like, are you for real? Now, what would happen is kids would sweep their own tables eventually on the duty that I worked. I would have kids that would start really cleaning up after themselves, and not just after themselves, but after each other. They would pick up brooms and they would sweep, because guess what? The floor was dirty, which meant there was a mess, which meant there was a possibility to clean it up, and the satisfaction from cleaning it up. And I would tell people after they did it, thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. One, it feels good to tell somebody thank you. It feels really good to tell somebody that you appreciate them. It also feels really good to hear that. So, another easy win is clean up a mess. And like I said, it doesn't need to be a big mess. It can just be where you're sitting and what you ate and the table and the surrounding area, and that's it. But it feels good. It could be that pile of clothes in the corner that you finally fold. It could be the fact that, maybe you've read 12 books and they're scattered around your room and you just put them back in the bookshelf. It feels good. It's a win. It's progress. It really is. So clean up a mess. All right, here's another easy win for you. And like I said, if you're wondering, dude, this is a running podcast. Believe me, we're getting there. Laugh. Laughter's a win. Laughter is a stone cold victory. Not only is laughter good for you, good for your immune system, good for your blood pressure, it also kickstarts so many things within your body that lead to things like creativity, peace of mind, better focus, lower stress levels. It's a workout. It also works your core. So yeah, we can get kind of nerdy, but finding those people in your life or those movies or those books that make you laugh, that's a win. You are better prepared to take on the day. You are better able to deal with the day if you can find those moments of laughter. So you may have to do some searching, especially tough days, but laugh. Laughter is a win. It's an easy win, okay? Believe me. Okay, another thing that I think is an easy one, help somebody. Yeah, help someone. And again, this doesn't have to be, some epic, breathtaking help where, I saw somebody and, They needed a house, so I built them a house. I'm not like that. First of all, that's amazing. If you can do that, that's great. I'm talking about you see somebody that's, carrying their groceries and you open the door for them. Or if you see somebody drop something and it's going to be a little bit harder for them to pick it up for whatever reason, you pick it up and you help them. You see somebody that's struggling to figure out the subway routes at the station. You ask if they need any help. These are the types of things that make your day better, even if you're in the midst of what you think is a losing streak. Helping someone is a win. Absolutely. And here's the other thing. It's a little bit like tag. When you help somebody, they are more likely to help someone else. And I'm not because they feel obligated to, or now they have responsibility to, but it really is kind of like we're in this together. This game we're playing, this run we're racing, this run we're running. Like we're supposed to be doing this. And it's a lot like sweeping the floor, cleaning up a mess. Help somebody. It feels good. It feels good. In that same vein, reach out to someone. And this doesn't have to be reaching out to someone who needs help. It's just reaching out to someone. Telling them thank you, telling them that you're thinking of them, inviting them to a run, asking how they've been, what they've been up to, what's new in their life. Just reach out to someone. And there doesn't have to be anything at the end of it. It doesn't have to end with, going to dinner, going to lunch, going to the meet. It doesn't have to be anything like that. It could be something as simple as just, hey, I was thinking about you. How you been? That's it. Because there's two things going on here. One, I think you realize how important you are to other people. Because I'll tell you what, hearing from someone that wants to know how you're doing is super impactful. Super impactful. And you feel like you're seen, like you're vital, like you matter to someone. Now, on the other side, that person who's reaching out, you matter to someone because you reached out to them and it mattered to them. So both of you are getting a benefit. 2 wins. 2 wins. Wow. That's pretty awesome. So reach out to somebody. And this is the thing. All of this that I'm bringing up, okay? Cleaning up a mess, laughing, helping someone, reaching out to someone, drinking that glass of water, trying to read something or learn something. All of this is action. These are verbs, baby. And guess what? Action begets action. Yes, I said begets. Do you have a problem with the word begets? Begets is a great word, not baguette. No, begets. Action begets action. When you start doing these little easy wins, guess what? They lead to more easy wins. And I'll tell you what, you suddenly realize these easy wins, they're not so easy. If they were easy, we wouldn't be having this podcast discussion right now. But the more you do it, the more likely you are to continue doing it. The more success you experience, the more likely you are to want to experience more success, which is why I'm telling you, don't diminish these little things. Don't diminish these wins. You want to measure success as many ways as you can. You want to be looking for as many wins as you can. You want to be looking for as much progress as you can, as much proof that you are heading in the right direction. You want to look for as many opportunities to succeed as you can. And if you can measure success as many ways as you can, I'm telling you, you will experience success in many, many ways. So stop being a jerk to yourself, because I think that's probably the number one thing that keeps us from experiencing as much success as we can. It's also probably the number one thing that has us missing a day turning into missing days. Because what do we do when we lose, come up short, miss a day, fail? We usually beat ourselves up. We're jerks to ourselves. That's what we do. So we stop supporting ourselves. We stop celebrating ourselves. We stop cheering for ourselves. And that does not lead to more success. It leads to less success, no success, and then no more attempts to be successful. We stop looking for opportunities to be successful because we have now told ourselves we either don't deserve that success or we cannot achieve that success because we are not enough, good enough, fast enough, tall enough, smart enough, tough enough,
were just not enough. And all of that is crap. So if you're going to believe what you're saying to yourself, you should believe in yourself. Believe that. That's what's going to lead to more success. And when you experience more success and you appreciate that success, guess what? That's where confidence comes from. Confidence, the appreciation, the acknowledgement of achievements and accomplishments. Yes, if you want more confidence, you need to respect what you've done. And if you can do that, you'll be confident enough to try again, even when those resolutions fail, even when you fall off the proverbial horse, even when you're in the midst of a losing streak, even when you've missed another three-pointer, or you've struck out at the plate again, or you missed another run. You'll be confident enough to try again. Remember, we are not finished when we stop. We are finished when we stop starting. That was the purpose of this podcast, for you to keep starting, for you to keep going after those wins. Yes, easy wins, sure. But if you keep getting those easy wins, you're going to keep getting those tough ones too. There you go. Episode 135 in the bank. So thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting the podcast. Thank you for rating and reviewing it. Thank you for sharing it with everyone. There's an easy win, sharing a really good podcast episode. This is a really good podcast episode, so share this podcast episode. And keep taking care of yourself so you can keep taking care of each other. All right? I'll see you on that next starting one. Thank you so much for listening to Coach Bennett's podcast today. And if you haven't already subscribed or set yourself as a follower to the podcast, I really hope you would. And make sure you check out the show notes, because in those show notes, you're going to find a link to Coach Bennett's newsletter and all the social media sites I'm on, like Instagram and Threads and Cameo and Blue Sky and nope, not on that one anymore. So all the ones I am on, you're going to find it in the show notes, so check that out as well. And as always, thank you again for listening to Coach Bennett's podcast. Until next time, you keep taking care of yourself and each other.